Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I realized that a lot of people on forums and also in real life want an answer to, and that is how exactly do you get along with ESTJ bosses or supervisors, just someone who is above you who is ESTJ. So it can be a teacher as well. And in my experience, I have had a lot of difficulties with the ESTJ type, especially since I'm an INFJ and in socionics. I'm not going to go into detail, but we are conflicting types. So it means that the ESTJ would have a certain strength that I lack, and I would have a certain strength that the ESTJ lack, but both of us would clash because each one would expect the other one to be good at something that we both lack, and each one would also attack the other's weakness the most. So, having to deal with ESTJs has been a very huge struggle for me, and I have also learned a lot just from dealing with them. So here are the three tips learned from having to deal with ESTJ bosses on a pretty frequent basis. I think I was 19 when I first had an ESTJ boss, and that was the worst experience I ever had with any bosses because, like I said, our personalities really don't gel well together, especially when you don't know what makes them tick. Tip one is you have to do your work well. And by well, I mean you have to put your best foot forward. So it doesn't really matter like what field you are in. As long as you have an ESTJ boss, he's going to be very strict about the kind of quality of work that you do. So he is going to be very particular about um, whether you have put in your all. Like I remember I was talking to this ESTJ boss. He's kind of a more mature one, so we have like a lot more in common because he actually managed to develop his later functions, extroverted intuition, and maybe a little bit of introverted feeling as well. So he's slightly more mature than the other bosses, so we could have some commonality. And he was telling me about his pet peeve, right? I was like, what do you look for in someone who's working for you? And he says like, as long as that person is not lazy. So he says like laziness is his number one pet peeve, and he doesn't like people who just like deliver like subpar work and just rush out something last minute because like meeting the deadline but not really putting forth like your best ideas. So that was for a marketing job, and for me, I feel like if you are under an ESTJ boss and you happen to be doing work that is in alignment with your natural strength, then you would have a much easier time because ESTJ bosses are really uptight about things like, you know, um, the quality of your work. So if you are, for example, if you're a waiter and you're not good at being fast and you're not being able to cater to the customers in the best way, then most likely you're going to be clashing really hard with ESTJs. So at this point, just make sure like don't take whatever criticism they have of you personally because most likely they are just using their extroverted thinking, which is an objective function. They're just looking at the work. So if you get criticized for something that you did wrong and you know that, oh, it's like you make a mistake in the order, then just quickly correct it and try to improve the quality of your work. Like, don't try to get him to like you by, being really nice, like using the, extroverted feeling techniques, like, oh, like trying to engage him in small talk and being really, like people pleasing. Like ESTJs don't buy that. So if you try to please them by complimenting them and so on, like it can work for a while, but if your work does not improve or does not match up to what they expect of you, they are still going to be really mean. So I think the first step is to really make sure that you are trying your best and to not explain away your actions, because I realize they really hate it if you try to explain why you did something wrong, unless there's a valid reason, like, oh, someone like made a mistake and it's not your fault. But if it's like you're just inefficient and you try to explain, they are going to be even more angry if you try to give them reasons. So I would suggest just try to improve as much as you can and just do your best in whatever area that you are at. Like if you are in dance, for example, just try to, coordinate your moves. And if you are doing like, some kind of a finance job, like just try your best to be better and try to show him that you have improved as much as is possible for you. And don't try to like get your way out by any other means to impress him, or by like, buying him gifts, or yeah, those tactics just don't work. Just focus on your quality of work first and foremost. Okay, so the second tip is to be really direct with them. So by being direct, I don't mean you be mean to them back, because that's just going to be clashing, right? Like that's not going to work in anyone's favor. So what I mean is that you bring up whatever concern you have with them directly, like don't skirt around the issue. ESTJs are not intuitives. Like most of them are not good at mind reading. They're not good at reading emotions. So if they give you a certain amount of job and you're unable to finish that, then just tell them upfront, like, oh, I'm really sorry, like I don't think I'm able to complete it by this deadline. And if you tell them early on, there's still like kind of like ways that they may decide to, reduce your workload if it is really humanly impossible. And also it goes with working in restaurants, because I realize that a lot of restaurant owners or bosses tend to be STJs. I don't know why. But so if you are in the service industry and you realize that the ESTJ boss is giving you too many things to carry, and you know that you might drop it like anytime, just tell them. Like don't try to like hide it and like pretend to be fine. Tell them straight up, because they cannot, like I said, they don't have introverted intuition or like any like psychological like mind reading techniques. Like they are not able to tell that you are in distress unless you tell them. So one mistake that I made in when I was working in F&B for a part-time role was that I was actually really hungry. I didn't have any lunch because my shift was from like 11 until I think it was like 2 or 3 p.m. and I just don't have time for lunch in between my shifts. And he told us that part-timers are not supposed to have lunch there. But the thing is, I was getting so hungry, like at one point I felt dizzy. So I still tolerated it because I didn't want to like make him upset. But then I realized that was a really bad idea, because I ended up serving the wrong table because I was so dizzy. And by the time I told him I was hungry, it was already too late because the mistakes have already been made. And ESTJs are very result oriented people. So they're not going to look at the process. They're going to look at the result. So if you deliver it to the wrong table, it doesn't really matter like what kind of reasons you have for doing that. Like, oh, I'm having a bad day, or, I was hungry. Like, they look at the result. So that's what they're going to focus on. So I think that the best way to deal with this situation is to tell your concerns up front, so that at least they have a heads up, just tell them like, oh, I'm really hungry right now. Like, can I just have a small break? Like, I promise I'll finish it within like 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I can't continue doing my work if I don't eat, because it's gonna lead to me making more mistakes. So by telling them directly, you are actually going to help them to think of a solution. And ESTJs are very logical people. So most likely if you tell them like logically why you needed to do a certain thing, or you needed to decrease your workload, if they are being reasonable, they would most likely respond better than if you make things um, not so obvious, and then later on, something even worse happens. So just make sure to be direct, and don't be overly emotional when you talk to them about your concerns, because in a work situation, but if you tell them like logically, okay, I cannot do this because I don't think that I have enough skill set to master this, but maybe next time I can do better upon like, increasing my experience in this area. Just try to base your arguments in logic so that they can see where you're coming from, and not use like other reasons, if that makes sense. Okay, so the third tip that I have is something that can be challenging for people who, like me, don't really get along with ESTJs, um, is to think about their redeeming qualities. And this is something that I have been training myself to do, um, because it's really easy to see someone who is ESTJ. There's a lot of ESTJs out there. So I know some ESTJ bosses who are really caring towards their family, and they are really responsible people, and occasionally they will show like really caring traits. Like I remember I had a kind of a role with this ESTJ boss. Like we were pretty unhappy with each other, and I felt like he was being really uptight over certain things that shouldn't be a problem, which yeah, he was, and so we were kind of like in a not a great emotional state, but he tried to like mitigate the situation by like after work, we were all just like really exhausted, so he tried to um, care for us. There's like some free leftover food in the restaurant that are still fresh, and he basically like asked us to eat those food with him. So he tried to like care for us like after the customers all left, because during the job period he's very uptight, but after the whole job ends, he tries to like have this like concern for us to maybe tone down the harshness, so that we can still feel like we are a part of the team. And another thing that I realized about ESTJs, they are very strict, but sometimes their strictness can actually help. And what I mean is that because I realize that I have a tendency to procrastinate, and I do need some kind of strictness, because if you don't check up on me, or you just don't say anything when I do something wrong, then most likely I'm gonna continue doing that. And that sounds bad, I know. I'm like working on my self-discipline, but I realized that ESTJs in the past, or just any extroverted thinking types, when they exert the TE, or the whole like work ethic feedback to me, I realized that it can really help me to improve. So one example is I had a dance teacher who was ESTJ, and she was so fierce. Like I felt like she overdid it. Like a lot of people were really unhappy with her, but she actually allowed me to do something that I never knew I could, and that was being flexible. Like I never knew that I could be that flexible. I could do the splits back then because she helped me. So how she helped me was basically the ESTJ way, which was through intimidation. I know it sounds like bad, like when I put it like that, but it was kind of true, because she was so strict. Like she was like, oh, you have to do this during the holidays. Like you have to train every single day, and I want to see results. So when she said that in such an assertive way, I took it literally. Like I thought she meant like, after the holidays, you have to know how to do the splits. And because I took it seriously, so I went home and I did everything. And then in the end, I realized I was the only one who was intimidated and basically like perfected the splits because I was scared of her. I mean, of course, like, you don't want to be scared of your teacher, but that really helped me because no other dance teacher has ever succeeded in getting me to do the splits and being so flexible. And after I did it, like, she was being really um, happy for me. Like, she was praising me in front of the class. Like, she didn't really like me before because I was a bit slow in learning the steps. So another thing about ESTJ is that they are very objective. So, if they don't seem to like you, it's because you are probably not very good at whatever you are doing. So it's nothing personal. But the moment she saw that I actually put in effort and, I actually did what she told me to and did it so well, like, she was proud of me. Like, she actually like complimented me several times and I felt quite embarrassed. But then I realized she was just the way she was. Like, she wanted us to be the best dancers. And so that is a really huge redeeming quality, is that a lot of ESTJ's criticism is really targeted at helping you become better at what you're doing. Even though sometimes, they go overboard. I think that a lot of them are actually well intentioned, and seeing that side, the positive side of their criticism, really helps me to appreciate them more. And I think that just the nature of appreciation can help to improve the relations between the two of you. So that's the 3 tips that I have to offer, but I want to deliver a warning. So if those 3 tips don't work, or the ESTJ is just being overly pushy, like, in a very unhealthy manner, and just being abusive, like emotionally, I've seen like an ESTJ boss just like straight up shout at the waiter and throw something at him. Like, that's over the line for me. I don't think that kind of behavior should be tolerated. So just know your worth and try to get along with your boss. And if your ESTJ boss is really getting out of hand, then I suggest you quit. And don't worry, like, there's a lot of really more suitable working environments for you out there, so you don't have to put up with unhealthy ESTJ boss forever. So that's about it. I think I actually like made a way longer video than I thought I would. I tend to talk a lot. So have a great day, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Bye!